my head, not wanting to dwell on the sight. My hand gripped in her ice-cold fingers. She took me deeper into the catacomb, which was as large as a church hall, into a room where there were no coffins, only a simple low-slung iron bed, a gas lamp, an elaborate wooden desk and mirror.
Courttia published his first novel, The Scholar, in 1997. Further critically acclaimed work includes Society Within in 1999 and Snakeskin in 2002. He was the co-editor of IC3, the Penguin Book of New Black Writing in Britain in 2000, and his short stories have featured in many anthologies, including Telltales. His latest books are The Dying Wish and a collection of short stories, Music for the Off-Key, in 2006. His plays have been performed across London, and his radio play Hands was broadcast on BBC Radio 4 in 2006. Courttia was also shortlisted in 2007 for the CWA Dagger in the Library Award. And this evening, Courttia will be discussing his new book, A Book of Blues. Okay, I'm going to pass you over now to Kevin Courttia. Thank you.
I think we'll start with the title, because it's very striking. A Book of Blues.
The blues is meant to be, blues is a form of music as well as a state of being, and I wanted to kind of encapsulate that feeling that the blues music has. It's about love in times of trauma. That's what I always say when I'm discussing the book, and that's what that title is meant to represent as well, love in times of trauma. Yeah.
So it's a collection, for those who haven't read it, it's a collection of 13 short stories that really deal with a number of very, very different situations. Some of the stories are set in London, some of the stories are set in Nairobi, in Kenya. There's a really interesting character called Palermo who kind of frames the book. It starts with him and it finishes with him as well. There's a very, very interesting, for me anyway, as a music journalist, story about a press trip in Miami, which maybe we'll talk about and which maybe Courttia will be kind enough to read from shortly. But the whole point is that the situations and the scope of this book is very, very wide-ranging. Was that important to you, to make sure that you had something which was not just about London? Because some people might perceive you first and foremost as a quote-unquote London writer.
Yeah, no, it's weird because that wasn't conscious at all. What I was just doing, just to go back a little bit, this book was not a conscious decision in the slightest. This book was a break from the novel that I was writing. So I was writing a novel called Minx, which still has yet to be published, which is very, very London. It's everything that I'm kind of known for. It's very much London, it's very much West London, and it's just like, it's just that. It's almost, to me, the evolution of the guys that I was talking about in The Scholar. I love doing that street stuff. I love talking about people on road, and I love writing stories that are too grimy to be published. You know what I mean? In the sense of that it's too much for people. I love doing that other stuff, that other side of me, which totally isn't like that, who's really bookish and really arty and loves going to the Tate Modern, you know what I mean, and just walking around, and took my son to the Tate Modern when he was like 3 months. Like, hey, look at this or whatever. So there's that side of me as well.
But the two things aren't incompatible.
They're completely compatible.
Yeah,
completely compatible. You can have both. And that's, I suppose, my point. That's been the point of all the books from day one, is that most people who really are from that background are both. And the stereotype is that we're not. We're not intellectual, we're not artistic, we're not. But the reality is we are.
So I couldn't even ask whether I was right as soon as she scarpered, though I suppose that was for the best. I wrapped and bagged Ganesh, and when she gave me the money, she kissed me on the cheek. Nothing major, just a quickie. We said our goodbyes, and it was only when I was putting the money in my pouch I saw she'd slipped a piece of paper between the notes. Call me, it said, next to her mobile number. Being a smart bloke, I followed orders. When a woman asks you, you don't think twice. The day after that, while hubby was at work, we did the wild thing all over my flat. Happy days.
Listening to you, it feels like you have a lot to say about beliefs, what you believe about stereotypes and ideologies and stuff like that. Have you ever thought of writing about yourself? I know your characters and your stories, they are partly you, but have you ever thought about writing an autobiography, or I think that's the right term for it.
Yeah, I mean, I do like to hide behind my books.
Yes.
I do like to hide behind them, that is true. But the more books I write, the less I seem worried about hiding behind the books anymore, and the more able I am to talk about myself. I always wanted to keep my private life very private, and so I'm not out there in that way so much. But I think actually I'm all right about it now. I could write an autobiography around about now. What it is the time. You know, I'm like I said, I've got a novel that I've written. I've got another novel that I'm halfway through. I know the novel after that, the novel after that, the novel after that, and 2 books of short stories. I know exactly what I want to do. So yeah, the next 5, 6 books are covered.
We talked about the importance of developing female characters, because I think it was Alicia who became more prominent in society within. Right. And yeah, the quote's coming back to me now. You said that you wanted to give more space to female characters in The Scholar, but if you had done so, it would have been a mighty long book. So the idea of developing female characters was something that was important to you.
Oh, totally. I mean, people ask me about that a lot, especially with this book, because there's so many female characters, and sometimes I don't even talk about it. Like, I'm just there and I'm reading the story, and then when I get to the bit about it being, 2 days before a period, people jump. Like, they're like, whoa, hold on a second, I didn't expect that.
It always reminds me of Budget Heathrow. There was no way I would have chosen to fly from there myself, and it was actually quicker to drive to Heathrow from Brixton, but my tickets had been booked by the record company, who had a deal with Virgin, so there was nothing I could do. My phone began to ring. Angry, I took it out and looked at the screen. Eden again. I got in line, and when I raised my head, there was a wide space between myself and the person in front. Over my shoulder, I saw a woman, tall and thin, maybe early 50s. She had greying hair.
I'm really curious with what you did with the other 360 words of the first novel, and also how many draftings you go through before it's finished.
Yeah, okay, so first question, the other 300 pages, it stayed. There is a 700-page version of The Scholar, and it's in my filing cabinet. It wasn't that it was bad, it was just irrelevant. You know what I mean? And people would come out of the council blocks and they'd meet a friend, and they'd go off and do something that had no relation to the story at all. And, all the time, because I was like, well, that's what happens, in it. You just go in and meet someone, and then I'm keeping, it's real, right? So, yeah, it's going to make it real. And, it was just irrelevant. That's what it was. So, cut all that out, and then we got to the meat of the story, which was the story of Courttia Newland.
Does working with young people influence your writing at all, especially in terms of language and dialogue?
Well, 2 things. Number 1, the new book I'm working on is called The After School Club. I think that says everything, really. Number 2, they like to tell me, when I did the play Look to the Sky, I had a reading with the young people, and one kid was like, it's really good, and I especially like the way that he uses slang and all that, even if it is old. And I was like, what? Like, so, come here. I mean, come here, what do you mean? So, what part of my stuff is old? You know what I mean? And he was like, well, this word and this word and this word. So after I beat him up, right? But no, I didn't beat him up, so I shouldn't say that. All the time we're belittling the young people, which is what the After School Club is about. We're belittling the young people, saying, oh, they're this and they're that and they're whatever. But they are. They're ready, if we just allow them to be. By the time she was facing me, my eyes had already leaked tears onto my jeans. Ruth stepped towards the bed, sat beside me, cradled my head in her hands. She rocked me as though I had been the victim, back and forth. And although in some way I knew I was, I couldn't quite work out how. I caressed her in return, fingers skimming dry, untended skin. On her shoulder, I found the brand, a blackened, raised portion of flesh, bearing 2 letters, R.C. Without knowing whether she would allow such a thing, I found myself kissing Ruth on that scarred flesh, hoping to soothe her pain with my lips, erase what I'd found.